This is the ideal little town. It's got everything your Sims could possibly need. Parks, walkability, bikeability, education, the works. Hopefully, the Sims don't get off the train and spawn a whole bunch of pocket cars. Oh, geez. It really is not a bad little city, if I do say so myself, but what we're really here to talk about today is pocket cars in City Skylines, as well as parking. The solution to pocket cars is a double-edged sword. By making it so your citizens don't just make cars appear out of thin air, as they're about to in a moment, you are forced to accommodate their new vehicles with parking. With this, there's also a few benefits and there's also a few drawbacks. I just want to talk about how this works and how you might solve parking, the pros, the cons, the whole thing surrounding pocket cars and parking in City Skylines. In the base game, vehicles will actually pull off to the side and park on the edges of roads. They will also use parking lots that certain assets contain. So a lot of growable, say, commercial areas have parking. Some residential might have parking in the driveway. Roads, once again, different assets will have different levels of parking. But ultimately, the game does not penalize you for not paying attention to that metric. The flip side of this is that the game also allows Sims to automatically make cars appear out of thin air. So these all just came off the train and immediately gummed up this road. The solution is a complex one. Well, it's simple, but it's complex to negotiate, I would say. All you have to do is go to Traffic Manager in your mod settings. Go to, I want to say it's Gameplay, and turn on More Realistic Parking. I'm going to zoom out and let the game run on 3-speed for a little bit and see what effect that has on the parking in the city. Here comes another train, and we should see a slightly different result from the group of passengers disembarking. So as expected, we've got people getting on, people getting off. They're all walking towards the road. Hurry it up. So now that realistic parking is turned on, they are forced to either walk to their destination, they can bike to their destination. I think they can pull a pocket bike still, but they are completely disallowed from producing cars, which is great. That's one problem solved on the upside. So put that in the pros column of that setting. Also, it gives you a handy menu. If I go to my traffic view, you'll see that some buildings have now turned red. This implies that there's not enough parking for the university, along with our normal, traffic information as well. Let's see if there's any buildings that look orange. No, it looks pretty good. It looks like the only building that's underserved in terms of parking is this building here. With this setting on, cars will drive around looking for parking spots, so it adds a whole lot more CPU calculations to your game. It also adds a lot more traffic oftentimes, because the vehicles will attempt 10 times to find a parking space. The other thing that it adds, view-wise or menu-wise, is if you go to your transit menu, you'll see most of the buildings are green, which is good. This dome that I decided to put in the Central Park is red, which means this is underserved transit-wise. So turning on realistic parking gives you a transit service level view of your city. So you can see the high school just turned kind of orangish. Orange is not the right word, but it's turning more red than it was. This building is slightly off green, which means that it probably needs a little more transit potentially. Some buildings in here seem to be underserved transit-wise. So those are the pros of turning on realistic parking, I would say. One huge drawback to realistic parking is the CPU usage. As I mentioned earlier, your computer has to work much harder to make all those calculations, as the vehicles will try 10 times to find a parking space. So they are doing many more calculations, as the Sims can't just make their cars disappear into their pockets or produce cars out of their pockets. All of the vehicles are accounted for all the time, which is very CPU intensive, so keep that in mind. Also, you have to solve the parking problem, otherwise you will have a traffic problem. All these vehicles going around looking for parking are going to gum up the roadways of your city, so you do have to supply parking above and beyond what comes with these buildings. There are a few ways to do this. A lot of people like to use parking lot roads. This is probably the most popular solution. In my roads menu here, it comes with a, right here, there's a parking lot kind of access road, and then you can draw different sized parking lots off of that. So one of that width is fine. You can do a larger one. The downside of this is that you have to manually place all of the parking spaces, which might not be a big deal to some, but there is a mod that can help you do this called parking lot, what is it? Parking lot snapping, I believe the name of it is. So I've already got it installed. All you have to do is activate the mod, and the parking spaces will automatically snap to the edges. So this is a great solution. But it's not the only solution. From here, I would just end up placing individual spaces and snapping it. And if you're going to use this, I would also recommend having Move It. You can turn this to buildings, select that, move these into place, center them, you know, that sort of thing. Very good. I would copy that shape to the other sides too to help parking. There's another solution that I have to this that I think is equally as creative, though a little bit different. Modular parking lots are a great option. So within my parks menu, I've got all of these, you can see this symbol over and over with different dimensions, 1x1, 1x2, L2, L3. It's this modular parking lot pack, and what you end up with are these strips of parking in different configuration. So there's this, this one is actually everything. So we've got accessibility, blank spaces, just empty spaces, and then we've got EV, electric vehicle charging spaces as well. This is a great option. You can configure these however you want. They come in a bunch of different sort of modular options. They go all the way up to 1x8 if you want something a lot longer, or 1x1 if you're just trying to fill a tiny little space. Totally fine. The way that I like to use these, though, is a little different. You'll notice this is already populated with vehicles. They don't care about the special spaces, of course. Those are for visual aspect only. And this configuration is really bad. That doesn't make any sense. But to add insult to injury, this curb is blocking the entire parking lot. So we've got this kind of poorly planned parking lot that's sitting up on top of a curb. What I'd like to do is show you how to do that, but a little bit better. We're going to be using what are called flat pavement roads. So it comes with bi-directional and single-direction roads. There's a connector piece and a segment piece. The connector piece always is designed to connect to curbed roads, and you'll notice that it lets traffic drive up on the curb. So now they're at grass height. They're at the same level that this parking lot is. So actually you could do something interesting by taking your segment road, if you wanted to, and bringing this down into this parking area, if you felt so inclined. That would make this area drivable. Vehicles can actually drive on this, and that's okay. That's one thing you could do. What I'm actually going to use it for, just to show you why you want to use a connector, the segment piece does that. The segment piece is a total mess, so don't use that. Use the connector piece, the C, for this to connect to regular roads, and use the segment piece everywhere else. So what I'm going to do is cut here and convert this entire section here into two-way segment. It's a thinner road, and it'll serve our purposes perfectly. What I'm going to do is make a parking lot here. Go figure. So I'm going to make several rows of roads, and I'm going to let it snap to probably 2-unit increments all around, I think. And it'll leave a row, and exactly 1-unit row of spaces along the way here. There's another mod called Big Parking Lots that works similar to this, but I think that this gives me a little bit more flexibility for the way that I like to do it. Great. So now we've got this sort of bay of parking lots, or spaces rather. What you can do from there is go back to your parks menu. The numbers, so the dimensions, so 1 times 5 is what I'm going to be looking for here. So let's scroll down to 1 by 5. R1 is just an empty, oops. R1 is just an empty set of spaces. That's great. You can actually use R1 in the opposite direction to simulate an L1. That's totally fine. Anything with a number 2 at the end has a single set of accessibility spaces. Anything with a 3 at the end has electronic vehicles or electric vehicle chargers, and then any of them with a 4 at the end have both electric vehicles and accessibility spaces. But the way that I like to approach this is I use Move It and hold Alt so snapping is on, drag them together, and then take this and put that in the space, in the space between. You can duplicate that with Move It, and then place it the whole way across. So I'm looking to center it, and center it, and center it, and this is actually the most compact way to build a parking lot that I've found in the game. All of these roads are fully drivable, so all of these segments are fully drivable. Cars can drive all around this and then, make a path that goes to the front so that they can walk there. But that is probably my favorite solution to parking. Overall, in City Skylines, I actually don't tend to use parking that much. The original devs said something, I forget which dev studio it was, or if it was even City Skylines, but the percentage of space that is used on parking in the average North American city is like a horrendous amount. So I've actually sort of become a fan of leaving that setting off. So I'll allow the pocket cars as long as I don't have to fill up the city with parking. So be sure to use lots of transit, be sure to focus on walkability, bikeability. If you want to turn this on and you have a high density area, be ready to fill in that area with loads of parking. It will work, but it's very rough on the CPU and you're going to use a lot of land area for parking in the long run. That is it. Everybody, thank you for hanging out and let me talk about realistic parking and the effects it has on the game. It does a lot of different things, some good, some bad. It'll depend on what kind of player you are and how you want to approach the game. It adds a touch of realism, but only so much. The game can only do so much. Feel free to subscribe here. I'm coming out with videos every week. Currently, I'm also working on a series called Benton. We're building Benton. Those are like hour-long videos every week. Been a lot of work over there. I also stream on Twitch twice a week, so feel free to join up on Twitch. If you want to catch a live stream, that would be great. I also have a Discord community. Feel free to join up there if you have any questions. Everyone, thank you very much for hanging out. I've been Yumble. I'll see you in the next stream or the next video.